Hello and welcome to Sparta, Kentucky for the continuation of the American Sim Racing series. This is the Camping World Truck Series, and tonight we are bringing you round number 8 live on the Global Sim Racing channel. I'm Richard Losper, and with me in the booth tonight is Joe Peak. Our regular broadcaster for this series, Samuel Ryman, is currently in hospital with some medical issues. We hope that everything is going well for Samuel. And directing all the action tonight is our very own Kevin Brown. Camera sets are provided by Doug Beard. Now, Joe, you are pretty new right here, but you certainly know this track, so tell us a little bit about it.
Absolutely. Sparta, Kentucky is not too far from Cincinnati, which is my hometown, so this is a bit of a home race for me. It's a 1.5-mile tri-oval. It's got 14 degrees on the banking. The pit speed limit, and we apologize. Sounds like we need to go to break for technical issues real briefly, Richard.
Yes, we apologize once again. We will be back shortly with the qualifying. Welcome back, folks. We do apologize for the technical errors experienced by our director. Things are all good again, so let us continue on with the broadcast. They are currently doing their open qualifying 10 minutes. They have to post their best times. And Joe, we were talking about the track. So, real quick, if you can just bring us up to speed on that.
Absolutely. The pit speed limiter on this is at 45 miles an hour. This is also one of the newer facilities out there as far as ovals go here in the U.S. It opened up in 2000. In fact, I remember when they were building it. And of course, this is a fixed setup race.
Thank you, Joe. Now, let's talk a little bit about the championship because it is very interesting the way things are developing in this championship. So we have 15, this is round number 8. And after 7 rounds out of 15, Gary Whitson is leading this championship, and he's done it not necessarily by winning any races, but just by being very consistent. Jordan Harnish in second place has moved down a spot. Jordan was our championship leader, Joe, up to last week. He's hung on to the championship for most of the weeks that we've broadcast, certainly. And he's lost it, so he'll be looking to have a good race tonight, I'm hoping. And Alex Bates, who's currently in third place, has not won a race either, but has been very consistent and finds himself now in third place. In fourth place and moving down one spot is Bryce Whitson Jr., cousin to Gary Whitson. In fifth place, we've got Tim Johnston. Tim Johnston was the winner of the last race at Richmond, and he has moved up 2 spots, so he's making a charge up the leaderboard of the championship. Nick Cohen, another fast guy, he's moved down 1 spot, and the other spots are taken up in 7th place by Jason Kristen, David Gibson in 8th, Jim Foos, who's one of the organizers of this series, he is in 9th place. He's been pretty steady, and a new entry into the top 10, in fact, is Dan Winter. Now, Joe, just for your information, with this series, it follows the Real World Series, the Camping World Truck Series. So they've got 15 rounds of racing to determine who will be in the chase. And then they have 8 rounds in the chase, just as they do in the real championship. So a pretty interesting series. We have been really excited to watch these guys go around week after week.
Yeah, they definitely seem to have an interesting format and really great setup, very involved, and it certainly has made it exciting so far. I've definitely watched a few of these races that you guys have been broadcasting, so it's a joy to get to join up with you. And one of the interesting things, we were talking about this before the broadcast, is they also follow the open qualifying that like the real world does. That's a bit new on the oval side. Usually it's a solo qualifying.
Correct. Normally you have 10 minutes, 5 minutes even, and you've got 2 laps to run. But these guys are using the open qualifying. I do believe, and no doubt the guys will correct me if I am wrong, but I do believe that certainly in the Gen 6, they've gone to an open qualifying format for this season. And I think the Camping World follows the same rules that happens in real life. So hopefully I'm correct and we have called it properly. But right now, as we watch the qualifying just finish off, Joe, there's only about a minute left in qualifying, and it looks to me like we have up at the top of the leaderboard a name that we've seen in the series before, but not usually up at the top, in Keith Medeiros. Gary Whitson sitting currently in second place. Now, we have seen these races end under caution a number of times in the rounds that we have covered, and hopefully we will see a nice clean race. This is a wide open track, 87 feet I believe is the width of this track all the way around, so plenty of space for the guys to give each other room.
Yeah, and these trucks certainly produce some brawler type racing that you can really bang them around and a lot of good close racing. But these guys are not afraid to get up and rub some fenders, that's for sure. But I kind of wonder if maybe Keith knows a thing or two about this track. I wonder if maybe this is his specialty of sorts, and maybe he's found a few loopholes here or there to get that extra tenth.
Well, yes, he must do. We've seen him before run up close to the front, and make no mistake, Joe, these guys, a lot of them, most of them, in fact, are very fast around any track, and obviously they do a lot of racing. The American Sim Racing Series consists not only of the truck races, but also they run Gen 6s, they run road races, they run a whole lot of different series. So a bunch of these guys do take part in most of the races, or maybe in some of the other series as well. However, Joe, qualifying is officially over. So why don't we go through the qualifying order and tell the viewers who is leading?
Absolutely. Sitting on pole, as we mentioned, Keith Medeiros has held on to it now that qualifying is finished. Gary B. Whitson is starting in second. Nick Cohan starts the second row in third. Ty Hester is in fourth. Then in fifth, it's Tim Johnston. And outside of him, it's Derek Cash in sixth. Seventh is Jordan Harnish. Then eighth, it's Bryce Whitson Jr. Then ninth is Ricky Harden. And 10th is John Peters.
And in 11th place, we have Alan Young. In 12th place, Skip Witt. In 13th place, Kent Hinshaw. In 14th place, Michael Koenig. In 15th place, Ernest Smith Jr. 16th place, Alex Bates. And 17th place, Jim Foos. 18th place is Steve Buhala. In 19th place, Dan Winter. 20th place, David W. Gibson. 21st place, William Wolf. And there are a couple of guys, Jason Kristen and Aaron Kleinhans, who have not posted a qualifying time for this race. So 23 cars in all. We do have, Joe, we've got the pace car now getting ready to do a pace lap. And the first row of Keith Medeiros and Gary Whitson right behind him. Look out for the guys in the second row, though, Nick Cohen and Ty Hester. And even in the third row, Derek Cash and Tim Johnston. In fact, keep your eye on Derek Cash because he is a well-known fast guy who loves to lead from the front here.
Now, interestingly, I'm looking at the chat here, and we've got a few penalties handed out. Jordan Harnish, William Wolf, Ricky Harden, John Peters, Skip Witt, and Keith Medeiros all got end-of-line penalties. I'm curious to know. There was some chat before the race or before qualifying was over, saying that if you don't stay on the apron when exiting the pits, you're going to get an EOL penalty. And it sounds like a few guys have fallen afoul of that.
Quite correct, and that is quite significant here because Keith Medeiros, our leader, has a end-of-line penalty, so he is going to be shunted all the way to the back. And these guys do have live admins, and they do enforce. They've got some pretty strict rules, and it's good for the racing. Another thing you might want to keep in mind that these guys do have, I think it's 2 fast repairs. So if they do get involved in an accident, they will be able to go down into the pits and get a new car.
So your day is not completely done, and the effective pole position will now be Gary Whitson, who is starting on the outside, though. Just ahead of him is Nick Cohan, who should drop back just a little bit farther. I guess he's taking the pole as the pace car now takes off, so I'll hand it back to you, Richard.
Thank you, and we are getting ready for a start. The pace car has gone off. Now they accelerate, the green flag flies, and they're away. The 21 car, Nick Cohen got the jump on Gary Whitson early, and he is now leading this race. Gary Whitson in second place. Tim Johnston from the next row has followed them in, and he is in third place with Ty Hester looking on the inside of Nick Cohen at the moment. Nick Cohen, wow, the 38 truck there of Tim Johnston just fell back, gave that position up pretty easily, Joe.
Yeah, I wonder if he decided if he's willing to be that aggressive this early, there's no point in really trying to fight that hard. Give it a little give and take and try and avoid some of these yellows that have plagued the previous races. Derek Cash has already decided that he wants a bit of that too and already takes a position coming through 1 and 2.
Yes, Derek Cash, as we said earlier on, is really fast. 38 car of Tim Johnston, truck I should say, of Tim Johnston on the outside, on the high line, alongside Derek Cash, and I do believe we have a caution, the first caution of the night.
I'm looking to see if I can figure out who exactly caused it. I see Ricky Harden going very slow on the backstretch, and it looks like he was the one that brought it out coming out of 2. Looks like he just got a little loose.
Yeah, not hard to do when these guys are forcing the pace a little bit. We have a replay now. Here it comes. So yes, we can see a car getting really loose, heading up towards the wall there, Joe, and not good early on.
Interestingly, we're getting information that someone was in the wall. I didn't quite see who it was. Might have been Skip Witt. I see him even farther back. Let me take a... Somebody with a purple and white truck. I'm afraid I don't know who that is, actually.
Purple and white, normally that is Jordan Harnish. Let's have a look at Jordan. Yes, it is Jordan Harnish who has a crippled truck at the moment there, and he's right at the back of the field. So definitely it was Jordan Harnish who was involved in that incident.
Well, I'm going back and checking my own replay, and it looks like coming into 1, he just went way up high and scraped up against the wall. So hopefully didn't get too much damage, but I don't think that brought out the caution as much as the other spin that we saw. One thing I did want to mention, Richard, is I've actually been on this track in person, riding along in a two-seater IndyCar. One of the things that's really distinctive about Kentucky is the bumps. It is just crazy how bumpy it is around this course and how much it rocks you. So these guys are going to have to be dealing with cars jumping around all race.
Correct. And also another thing to keep in mind is with these trucks have the new tire model, and it does take a little while, just as in road racing, for the tires to warm up. And obviously early on guys were pushing a little too hard and paid the penalty.
A few guys have jumped into the pits. Jason Kristen is already done. Jordan M. Harnish is obviously getting his damage repaired. Key Harden as well. Skip Witt decided to come on in and get some tires and fuel possibly. William Wolf is going very slow on pit road. That's unusual.
Well, I tell you what, the pace car is out there. The lights are still on, so we've got a lap or two left. So we can see guys will take every opportunity to jump into the pits. We are only on lap 4 of this race, and it is a 75 lap race, so one would think it's pretty early on unless they have some damage to go into the pits at this point. But everyone has their own strategy for trying to win this race. So at the moment, Nick Cohen in the number 21 truck is leading this thing, and Gary Whitson, who stayed out of trouble, is in the second position, and the second row is Ty Hester and Tim Johnston. So pretty much the front runners have not been affected by what's happened. They have stayed out, obviously, and they are looking good to resume where they left off.
Yep, and as far as the strategy can go with those guys ducking in so early on, if you're at the back of the pack, you've really got nothing to lose. So kind of an attitude of, well, maybe I can go a little bit off strategy and top up just that little bit on fuel and be able to stretch myself a little further. So maybe some of those guys are thinking maybe they can get themselves a shorter pit stop down the line or something like that when everybody else comes in for stops, and maybe jump a few places. So you never know. If you, like I said, if you're at the back of the pack, there's really just nothing for you to lose.
Well, I tell you, Jordan Harnish is just not having a good day today. I was watching the back of the pack, the very last couple of cars, and Jordan Harnish in the purple and white car, on this pace lap, he actually hit Skip Witt on the left side. So Skip Witt has got some damage now. I'm sure he won't be pleased about that. But back to the front, where we will be on Nick Cohen as he gets ready to restart this race. The lights are out on the pace car as we speak. They are coming up to the final corner number 4. And we will get a start momentarily, Joe.
Absolutely, and watch for Gary Whitson around the outside. Remember, he was supposed to be the pole after our pole sitter was given that end of line. So, and he didn't get it because Nick Cohan just slotted right up to where the pole position was. It'll be interesting to see what he does this time by.
Yes, indeed. And the pace car has ducked off. We've got Nick Cohen holding them, and now away he goes. The green flag flies, and they are racing once again under green. Straight away, Gary Whitson slots in behind Nick Cohen, and they go along the preferred line on this track. You can see, as you were talking about earlier, Joe, that
Ty Hester just lost control and he's around. Yellow flag is out.
Ty Hester, and we will get a replay of that. Ty Hester, who started the restart here in third position, spun his car around. He is off track. He's back on now. Doesn't look as if he got much damage out of that, but we do have another yellow flag. 2 yellow flags, 2 cautions within the first 6 laps.
Yeah, Ty didn't really touch anything, and I was kind of keeping half an eye on him as they were coming around turn 2 there, because it looked like his back end was starting to creep out, and sure enough, it just came around. I saw a lot of guys making that mistake during practice, and a number of them were complaining about the grip levels, saying it was practically icy out here. So I think we're going to see a lot of no-contact spins like that throughout the day, unless you have a whole clump of guys coming together, because they come off that corner pretty fast. So it could cause problems if people don't keep their heads up.
Well, absolutely correct. Now, let's just talk a little bit. The weather that they're using here at this tonight is, in fact, the standard iRacing weather. So we've got a clear sky. We've got 78 degrees. There's no wind to talk about, and the humidity level is at 55%. So that's pretty cool. And the thing that these guys are not taking into account is the fact that, first of all, it is a night race, and therefore you do have to be a little more careful early on, because it is a little more slippery than it would be during the day early on. So guys are not taking that into account in the first few laps after a start or restart. As we see most of the drivers going into the pits now, Joe, this is obviously a time just to top off the fuel and to get back out there. And if you are towards the back of the field, why not?
Interesting call from Tim Johnson, who's now getting tires in the pits. He was in third place when that yellow flag came out, and he has decided to duck in. So did Derek Cash. We can also see Ty Hester coming in. I guess he's going to try and get 4 fresh tires as he misses his stall, which shouldn't cost him too much with it being under caution.
Yeah, correct. Yes, a number of guys, you'll see they work different strategies, but you might as well take tires, because the big thing with these trucks is the fact that the tires do go off very significantly after not too many laps. And so every opportunity they get under caution, you will see guys ducking in, unless they're fighting for position. They will duck in and grab some fresh rubber, as well as top off the fuel.
Absolutely, and we saw a number of people also come in, but I didn't quite see. It's looked like quite a few actually. So, a lot of people electing that now that we are, I believe, 8 laps into this thing, that it's time to get it going on some of these pit stops and see how this thing plays out, Richard. So, it's going to be interesting as it progresses.
Yeah, Nick Cohen, I was just going to make mention of that. He is back on track in the 21 truck, and he did disappear for a moment. So it looks like Joey might have had some connection issues there, but he is back on track, thankfully. And in the number 1 position, Gary Whitson still on his outside in the second position. But now the third position and fourth position are taken up by 2 new trucks, and that is L. Bryce Whitson Jr. and John Peters. So the fancied drivers that we spoke about early, Jordan Harnish, Derek Cash, etc., they have fallen back. They've been in the wars, or they, for one reason or another, have fallen back. And we've got a few guys up the front that we don't normally see there, such as John Peters and Kent Hinshaw.
Yeah, remember Derek Cash and Tim Johnson were two of those front runners that decided to come on in for their pit stall. So that's what shuffled them back. That can be a big risk, especially in a series like this where we've seen so many cautions, because it can sometimes be tricky to make your way back up, and it puts you at risk of getting involved in an accident if something unfolds in front of you. It's a lot harder if you got a lot of cars around to try and take avoiding action if you can't, go low or high to try and go anywhere because you got a car on either side.
Yeah, good point. Mind you, having said that, I have seen Derek Cash come from dead last to win a race. He was involved, I can't remember where it was, but he was involved in some incident and found himself right at the rear of the field and came all the way through with cautions and good driving to win the race. As we see the pace car ducking off once again, we have a restart. Nick Cohen is in control. He goes away now. The green flag flies as we speak. And we are back under green again. Let us hope we can get a bunch of clean laps around this time, Joe.
Bryce Whitson Jr. was taking a look on the inside of Gary Whitson, but couldn't quite make it happen. Now he's got a car coming on the outside. That's John Peters. He's looking to make a run, gets a little loose, and can't quite make it happen. Now, one of the things to watch out for on these restarts, Richard, is they were given a warning to stay in line until they get to that start-finish line. So they cannot duck out unless they're trying to avoid an accident.
Yep, that is pretty much the rule. You have to stay on your line. You're not allowed to change lanes. You're not allowed to overtake the leader unless the green flag has flown. But it looks like right now we've got the top four cars, trucks I should say, have got a little break on Ken Hinshaw, who's in fifth place. He's being followed by Alan Young in the number 15 truck. So the top four, they're very, very close to each other. And interesting to see John Peters in the 151 truck keeping pace with these guys, because remember we said John Peters is not, we haven't seen him up the front pretty much in any of the other races.
I want to get a camera on Derek Cash because he is having a great battle with Keith Medeiros. And in fact, Cash was on a charge to try and make up some of those spots before. He was scored in 8th last time by the line, just behind Keith. And he's on the outside coming into 3, tries to hold onto it. Remember, Keith was going to start on pole, so obviously he's fast too. We got two guys that want to make up time, but both battle each other at the same time. So this will be interesting to see if they can both make their way through the field and battle each other.
Wow, they came very, very close to each other right there. Derek Cash backs out a little bit. Here's Medeiros. And we have a situation up front. The action is hot up front there. Gary Whitson is now in control of this race. Nick Cohen now finds himself on the outside of Gary Whitson. Gary Whitson pretty much laying down some good laps as we see the 151 truck of John Peters overtake Nick Cohen. Nick Cohen shunted back to 3rd place and under threat from Bryce Whitson as well on the inside, Joe.
And Peters, yeah, looking to see if he can take the lead over as we got a car on the apron there, simply coming out from pits. Nick Cohen is slipping back further and further, although he managed to get back into 3rd. But Bryce Whitson Jr. is looking to take away that 3rd place spot from him. Couldn't quite make it happen. Meanwhile, up front, Gary B. Whitson is definitely leading this race definitively.
Absolutely, and kudos to 5th and 6th place of Ken Hinshaw and Alan Young. Alan Young now making a move on the 83 truck of Ken Hinshaw. Doesn't get it done. Now he goes back in and takes the low line as we see Gary Whitson up front having a big bobble and loses that first position to John, or was that John Peters? I believe that might have been John Peters that had the bobble.
Yeah, I think that was John. You're correct. So he is holding on to it and manages to keep his 2nd position as Bryce Whitson Jr. was not able to get past him with that bobble. Maybe he just decided to check up. What's interesting is these guys are able to hold off pretty well with that high line, so it's definitely working better for them around this track.
Well, yeah, there's a bunch of these guys who have done a lot of practice laps, no doubt, and they should know the track by now. But a great drive from Gary Whitson to lead this race, bearing in mind that Gary Whitson's also leading this championship. So a good finish for him here, or a win, will certainly seal his position at the top of the table. And these guys are all pretty much in line at the moment, but looking for any opportunity, Joe, to grab a spot if they can. So the first four pretty much in line. If we go further back now, we find that Derek Cash in fifth place in the 22 truck has moved up to fifth place, and looking like he's catching these guys in front of him lap after lap.
Woo! Big bobble from Cash, and now he's starting to lose it. He spins it on the front stretch, and they've got the yellow flag out.
Commentators curse. The 22 truck on replay as we speak. We were just talking about the good run he's had, and he got loose, very loose, touched the wall, came down. Thankfully, it looks as if no one else touched him. He spun the truck completely around, managed to get it stopped, and still running, but with a bit of damage to the truck right now.
Well, I'm just glad it was you and not me, because I was about to mention the incredible progress he'd made. I think he was like 13th or 14th when we had that restart, and all the way up to 5th. That's no mean feat. It looks like as he's going low, actually he's pulling up to the tail of the field. I was going to say, I think he's going to duck into the pits and get some of that damage repaired.
Yeah, now he's decided to stay out. Maybe the pit gate is closed at this point. Normally it takes a lap or two under caution before the pit gate opens. So nobody will be able to enter the pit until the second pace lap. And you will see a bunch of them going into pits right now. In fact, just about everyone goes into the pits.
Well, instead of the pit gates, we might as well call them the floodgates, because everybody is coming in, it seems. In fact, I'm trying to see if there's anybody that stays out. Looks like William Wolf and Derek Cash, and I think those are the only two. No, I'm sorry.
Well,
looks like David Gibson as well.
Yes, and David Gibson now finds himself in the lead of this race. And let's see, behind him, Derek Cash, who stayed out with that damaged truck. So he might just be deciding, well, I might as well just get up the front and lead some laps. I'm not quite sure, but there may be a bonus point or two in there for leading a lap. So he's going to try and challenge David Gibson for the lead, possibly on the restart. Gary Whitson has come back out now, I notice. Let's see, who is in third place? It looks like the third place position is Bryce Whitson.
I was going to say, he actually managed to jump John Peters in the pits, so he has done a good job right there, getting himself one more spots in the pit stops.
Hang on a minute. I think we're wrong there. Let's see. So right out the front of this, the iRacing screen is not right. So David Gibson definitely just behind the pace car. Behind him is Derek Cash, and Gary Whitson is currently sitting in third place, and then Bryce Whitson. So that's your top four. That's how they'll start on this restart. As we see David Gibson going into the pits now, Derek Cash still elects to stay out. Strange move from Derek Cash there, Joe.
Yeah, I don't know if he's aware of just how much damage he got from that spin and touching the wall. I would think it was hard enough of a hit that he would elect to go in and get some of that damage repaired, but maybe he thinks that it's not important enough, that right now all he needs is track position.
Well, that's one thing. Another thing is, remember we mentioned that they do have a couple of fast repairs, which means basically if it were real life, they'd have a spare car in the garage that they could bring out. So he may not want to go into the pits right now and grab a spare car, or maybe he's just feels his truck has got enough to keep him ahead of these guys behind him. So we'll see on the restart exactly how his truck looks and what shape he's in. But right now he is in the lead of this race, and followed by the two Whitson cousins, Gary and Al Bryce Whitson. John Peters, great run from John. Kudos to you, John. He is in fourth place. He's done a great job staying out of trouble and keeping that truck up there.
Yeah, as soon as you mentioned the spare car, I kind of realized what he was up to. I mean, we're only 20 laps into this 75-lap race. We're not even to a third of the way. So obviously he wants to kind of hold on to that just in case he runs into a little more trouble. I guess he figures as long as the steering feels okay, might as well not sacrifice that spare car and just stay out there for now. I think they're going to have one more lap, and then we're going to get two file and restart.
Yes, sir. And this is this the third or fourth caution? I forget. The cautions have come thick and fast, which does surprise me a little because this track is quite wide. I did a few laps here earlier on in the evening just to get a feel for the track, and I guess when you're running by yourself, it's completely different from running in a race. You don't have any dirty air to worry about. You don't have any other cars to worry about or trucks to worry about at all. I was pretty comfortable traveling around here by myself, but these guys are certainly very, very loose early on, and they haven't had enough of a green flag run, Joe, for them to settle in. So it's been stop start pretty much.
Yeah, kind of a chicken and the egg scenario. They really need the long green portion to get themselves a nice amount of grip. But how do you get that when you keep having cautions, and cautions breed cautions, as we know? So it's tricky for them at this point. Everybody, I think, needs to just kind of calm down, run at 9/10 instead of 10/10 for a little bit until everybody just gets into their groove, and then they can really start pushing each other.
Yeah, that's I mean that's advice to to us here in the booth. But when you're out there on the track, obviously there are a whole lot of other factors that come into play. Now let us have a look and see the pace lights. The pace car lights are out, so they will be getting a start on the next time by. And I am looking to see what Derek Cash is going to do. I would suggest that Gary Whitson, who has been starting on that outside row pretty much every restart, he should have the better of Derek Cash as the pace car ducks off. Derek Cash doesn't hang about, and
Whoa!
straight away Gary Whitson goes into the wall, and the green flag has not even flown yet, though, so he just loses multiple positions right there.
Absolute nightmare start for Gary. He is almost to the back of the pack from that. He had a pretty hard lick into that wall, so I'm not sure if he got away from that one scot-free, but someone who did get away pretty well is Derek Cash, still holding on to that lead. He is under threat from Bryce Whitson Jr. heading out into turn 3. Bryce does not really have an answer for him. He gets really close to that rear bumper, but backs out of it, and that pack of 4 is looking very racy.
Yes, indeed. And Derek Cash, we know, is a very, very fast guy. Bryce Whitson in the 0-0 car, challenging on the inside. He might get this done here, Joe. He does indeed. Derek Cash gives up this the first place because no good trying to battle from the outside line. You really need to do your overtaking on the inside line. Very few guys can do it on this very bumpy track. As we see now that Bryce Wilson goes a bit wide, gives Derek Cash a look in. He's going as low as he can, trying to get the job done. He does get the job done. He forces Bryce to go a bit wide. And with that damage structure, he grabs possibly the first position, although Bryce is fighting him all the way.
Yeah, Bryce really used that high line to keep his speed going off that corner. I think he knew that Derek Cash was a little slippery out of that corner too, so he couldn't quite get on the power as soon. And he's still holding on, coming out of 4. Can Derek get it done this time?
Oh, and John Peters decides he wants into the pit lane. We're still under green as far as I know. Very strange that we see a pit stop from the third place position, so something must have happened that we don't know about there, Joe.
We're getting word that there was a black flag for possibly passing the leader on the restart. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Well,
we don't know for sure, but certainly that was a very quick stop. No tires taken. We also see that the Keith Medeiros in the 133 truck and a yellow flag has come out once again, Joe. So a very chaotic race up to this point.
Well, we had a few laps this time around, so guys are getting a little better about it, but I didn't see who caused that one, unfortunately. I'm trying to see if I can spot it.
Yeah, we were looking at the cars running pretty slowly, coming into pits, possibly getting black flagged, and meanwhile, there was a yellow flag. So pretty uncertain about what's going on right now.
It sounds like it was Alex Bates, and I think we're getting a replay up. Well, I guess we already saw the replay, and Alex Bates, I guess, was just tipped off into the infield. So yet another little caution that was just kind of a no harm, no foul situation.
Well, Derek Cash still in the lead of this race, so I'm not quite sure exactly where we are. We'll have to wait for the iRacing to catch up. Just bear with me for 1 second. I think this might be an opportune time to go to a break, a real quick break. Welcome back, folks, to what is turning out to be a pretty chaotic race. Joe, we're under caution once again. What are your thoughts so far, having watched this chaos taking place?
I think there's a lot of guys who are being a little too pushy shovey this early in the race. People are really anxious to try and grab positions, and it hasn't caused too many of the cautions so far, but it's definitely caused some tense moments, especially up among the leaders. And I've seen some very critical mistakes from the leaders that surprise me, especially even though we've got these low grip levels. Like I said earlier, I think guys are pushing just a little too hard until they can get those tires warmed in.
Yeah, and Derek Cash, just a note here, the iRacing standing screen was showing Derek Cash in second place. He's dropping way back now, so he's obviously been sent to the back of the field, and he's taken up position towards the rear of the field now. Our effective leader at this point, Joe, is Bryce Whitson, and Nick Cohen is on his outside on row number 1. We have Ken Hinshaw and Ty Hester in the Ken Hinshaw in the second row. Then there's Ty Hester next to him on the outside. So that's your top 4 at the moment. And Jim Foos in the number 2 truck. Let's put the camera on Jim Foos for a second. Jim has now moved his way up. He is currently sitting in 5th place, courtesy of all the drama that's taken place, and Tim Johnston on his outside. So there's your first 3 rows. And let us hope, Joe, that we will, on the next restart, get at least more than 5 laps on the restart of a green flag run.
Absolutely. Jim's done a pretty handy job. He qualified 17th, so 5th ain't too shabby, but I think we're getting ready for the restart.
I have got my camera on Bryce Whitson, who will take command of this race. No, that's not right. The pace lights are still on the car. We are as chaotic as the drivers at the moment because there seem to be such a lot of disruptions, Joe, to this race.
I apologize there. I saw them getting lined up two by two, and I thought they were coming back already. But yeah, I find this entry interesting from the fourth place driver Ty Hester in the chat. He was saying Hakuna Matata. So I think some of the guys are getting just a little heated up by some of the mistakes and driving errors that were happening. And I know a couple of the guys were getting on the radio and complaining about all the cautions. And that can just add to the problems here. You've really got to keep a cool head, keep focused. When you get too many cautions like this, you can't get antsy. You can't let it, convince you to make irrational moves. You've got to just kind of take it as it comes until it gets down to the last few laps. That's the point at which maybe it's time to start taking some risks. Right now, these guys just really need to keep a lid on it and just get those laps in.
Yeah, that's right, Joe. The thing is, we have seen some great racing from these guys in the past. There's no reason why they can't do it again. The track is right for good racing. They just need to screw their heads on properly and knuckle down and get to the racing rather than, challenging each other early on and causing accidents. But the pace lights are definitely out now. And we have Bryce Whitson Jr. in control of this race. On his outside, we said that we had Nick Cohen. So getting ready for a restart. The pace car will duck in a matter of seconds. There it goes. Bryce Whitson in control. The green flag about to come out. The green flag not yet. There the green flag comes, and already we had the third place position of Ty Hester pushing into Nick Cohen and almost touching him, but he managed to hold off. So your first three are Bryce Wilson, Nick Cohen, and Ty Hester. Good running from them at the moment. Tim Johnson taking up the fourth position. Joe, anything you've seen towards the rear?
Yeah, we had a three-wide situation with Jim Foose and just cleared it. He had Jordan Harnish and Ken Hinshaw looking outside of him. And now we've still got three wide as they're coming out of turn 4. And guys are really clogged up here since everybody's holding each other up. And guys are trying to sort themselves out, it looks like.
Yeah, but look, way in front now. Bryce Whitson is back a little break on the second place position of Ty Hester up the front. Tim Johnson closing in on Ty Hester. Nick Cohen was shunted back from the second place. He's now in fourth place. Jordan Harnish in fifth place. Jordan Harnish has reappeared on the scene. This is the holder of the second place position in the championship, Joe. So he's just quietly come from the rear. Now finds himself actually in fifth place. And where is John Peters, who was having such a good run early? John Peters very much still there as well. So hopefully we are getting some good racing at last, Joe.
Yeah, John Peters looking on the inside of Jordan Harnish, but decides to back out of it as they come into 3. Just behind them, Keith Medeiros also trying to come back after his earlier problems. And look at that good run out of 4 by John Peters. He's on the inside, and we've got another caution.
Well, what can I say, Joe? Another caution, probably caution number 5 or 6. We'll try and get a replay to see what happened, because I must confess I did not see what happened there.
I'm taking a look, and we're hearing that it might be Derek Cash, and it looks like that was the case coming out of 3.
Well, Derek Cash was running around with a damaged truck. Obviously could not hold it on the track. And right now, I'm not seeing him on track at all, so he must be taking a tow by the looks of things.
It looks like he actually manually disconnected, so I'm not sure what happened there because he was still moving, and usually the car has to come to a stop.
Yeah, that's very strange, but we'll get a replay and see what happened. So we see him spinning out, car spinning, going down towards the apron, and then just disappears.
Yeah, very bizarre. Like I was saying, usually for those not familiar with iRacing, to be able to manually exit out, you have to bring the car to a complete stop, and then you can hit the escape key. In this case, it could have been a connection issue, and if you're new to sim racing, I know many of you might be very familiar with this spiel, but obviously, if you have connection issues, it's sort of the equivalent of having maybe an electrical failure or a little part of the car just go wrong and the whole car just stops working. And in this case, that could have been possibly what happened. Maybe his computer failed on him. You know, we've seen hardware failures and software failures in various races throughout various series, Richard.
Yeah, that is very true. And we're just seeing the lucky dog, William Wolf, charging around the track to get back onto the rear of the field. The pace car is out there, the lights are on. Strange that everyone stayed out. Possibly they will all go into pits now. Now, Joe, we are on lap 35 out of 75, so we're not quite halfway through this race yet. 6 cautions already. You can understand why a lot of the drivers are unhappy.
Oh yeah, you know, I'd be the same if I was in there. The thing is it's kind of almost like a poker game in a way, in some aspects, because the guys that are getting on the radio, you know, they're getting heated. If that's the one in front of you, you know that maybe you can rattle a mistake out of him because he's letting it all get to him. I might be frustrated in the in the cockpit, my virtual cockpit, but I would not be getting on the radio and letting everybody know where my mental state is. I would just be keeping quiet right now and kind of holding my poker hand.
Yeah, yeah, this is a time for cool heads, no doubt. And, the guys up the front want to race. They've, by and large, been racing very clean up the front. And I'm sure they will be pretty frustrated. The only time you won't be frustrated is if the caution comes out with 2 laps to go, because then you know you'll be the winner. But other than that, with still a very long number of laps to go, we're on lap 36, so there's about 38 laps, 39 laps to go still. So very long number of laps to go still. These guys want to get to racing. It's not happening. They're not quite sure who they can blame. But so they're just complaining on the radio and in the text chat. But it is what it is, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, at this rate, I'm gonna have to maybe order in some dinner or lunch in your case down in Australia.
Yeah, pretty much. We'll stick with it and we'll see. I'm pretty sure we will see some racing finally. Let's just run through the order here. So Bryce Whitson at this point is leading. He's led a number of laps since his cousin Gary Whitson fell out of the scenario. So he's done a pretty good job, and we can't fault him. Ty Hester, who has a damaged truck there, Joe, he is now in second place. Tim Johnston, his truck looks pretty good. That lovely light blue truck there with the Skype logo on the rear, looking pretty good. He's in third place. And then we've got Nick Cohen and Jordan Harnish following these guys. So that's pretty much the top 5 that we've seen all race long. And let's hope they can carry on with it.
Yeah, I really do hope we get some green flag racing going here. The one good thing about this is that if you look at the standings, Eric Cash is really the only casualty we've had with the spare car, and all the cautions with the lucky dogs means everybody, all 22 cars that are still out there, are still on the lead lap. So we've still got a race for just about everybody.
Yeah, and I must admit, I do like that idea of giving the drivers a spare car. Lots of iRacing league organizers, they scoff at the idea of using a spare car, because they say it's not real life. You don't get spare cars in real life, but really this is virtual racing. And after a bunch of cautions and accidents like we've seen here, the spare car is a breath of fresh air because it keeps the racing alive.
Yeah, it really does, and it's kind of the trade-off that you have to make. Do I go for realism, or do I try and give everybody a good show? Now it depends on who your audience is. If you're one of the organizers, do you want to try and attract drivers, or are you trying to attract people to come watch the drivers? And sometimes people watching the drivers feeds into more drivers. So it's all dependent on what your approach is. But I'm certainly enjoying having this many people still in contention.
Well, the lights out on the pace car. L. Bryce Whitson Jr. in control of the race at the moment. Ty Hester on his outside. The pace car ducks into the pit lane, and Bryce takes off. and got a pretty good jump on the rest of the field. And the green flag flies now with Tim Johnston on the inside, who was in third position, challenging Ty Hester on the outside, who has a damaged truck for that second position, Joe. And Nick Cohen battling as well to stay in it. We had a big bobble there from Ty Hester on the high line, and now we've got the 51 truck of Jordan Harnish coming into fourth place, trying to grab that position. What are you seeing, my friend?
Well, I'm watching the same thing with Jordan trying to hold off a number of cars because he's got Nick Cohan and John Peters right behind him looking for a mistake from both of those guys and trying to find their way in. But man, Jordan is really pushing that low line, trying to make it work, and Ty Hester is not giving up as he gets a little loose once again, tries to hold on to it, and he's up into the wall.
Ty Hester did touch the wall. He still keeps going though, but we see a caution coming out. I'm not sure if that was for Ty Hester or for some other incident.
It was Gary Whitson who went around, and he is our championship leader. He had a huge hit.
Wow. So, and he was in about 8th position at the moment. We're getting a replay of that incident. Gary Whitson, we'll go a little further back to see what happened. And there he is, Gary Whitson getting loose. He did touch another car. Maybe that other truck came down a little bit, Joe, and touched Gary in the 13 truck. But certainly he's the loser out of all of that.
Yeah, that was Kent Henshaw on the truck on the high side there. He saw what was unfolding in front of him with that other car getting loose and tried to duck low and forgot that Gary was there, unfortunately. And Gary was the one that lost out.
Yeah, unfortunate. Now, folks, we must apologize. Occasionally you will hear us saying car instead of truck. We are so used to broadcasting road races as well as oval races that sometimes we get a little mixed up. So, Joe, it's a truck, not a car.
Absolutely, and I apologize if I miscall that at any point. You're right. It is tough when you're so used to talking about cars in most series, but they are in fact trucks. Even though they're not pickup trucks like you'd be driving on the street, they obviously have truck frames in them. And we've got some cars ducking into the pits, including Ty Hester coming out of 6th, and then behind him that is Kent Henshaw as well. I guess he might have gotten just a little bit of damage from that contact that he made.
Yes, and I must tell you that you're not the only one making that mistake, calling a truck. I've done it plenty of times. I've got the camera on Ty Hester at the moment. I want to see if he gets all his damage repaired on his truck. So he's sitting in the pits at the moment, very slow. So looks like he may well have used up all his free trucks, and now he has to get the damage repaired. And this is what we were talking about earlier, Joe, where you run out of spare cars and then you've got to sit there and get the damage repaired.
Well, Alex Bates looks like he's the first one out of the pits, followed by Jason Kristen. Jim Foose also comes out behind them. Then we've got Ricky Harden and Kent Henshaw behind them as well, with his damage hopefully fixed. And Alan Young, a number of guys in. Steve Buhala has ducked out, and he's the last one in line out of the cars that have ducked in. The only ones left are Gary Whitson getting his damage repaired, and as you mentioned, Ty Hester trying to get as much of that car back into order as he can.
Yeah, and
I'm sorry. Myself
that's okay. That's okay. I'm sure that the drivers will forgive us. They bigger cars anyway.
Actually had a few Finnish people over in recent days, and we had an interesting discussion about how their confusion as to the usefulness of trucks. And I was trying to explain some of the American sensibilities as to why you'd want to, especially if you're moving, everybody becomes your best friend. But they didn't quite seem to get it. So must be just something that we understand over here.
Well, in Australia, I can tell you that this type of vehicle is called a utility vehicle, or a ute for short. I have a Ford ute. Looks pretty much like one of these trucks out here right now. But of course it's in street condition, not in racing condition. But we have utes here in Australia. Over there you have trucks. So if you hear me calling it a ute, which I won't do, but if you do, that's my Australian background coming out.
Well, we hear that from time to time in the way you pronounce Kentucky, which I think you've been doing pretty good so far on that one. So I think we're all copacetic. It just gives it some flavor.
All right, well, let's talk about the racing once again. So, the guys that are impressing me at the moment, Joe, is Jordan Harnish and John Peters. I'm really impressed by John Peters' drive. On the back of his truck, a black truck, the 151 truck, he has a sign that says hell of a good. And he's been doing a hell of a good job here today.
Yeah, very much so. Now, Tim Johnson is the one that has me curious. He's sitting in second place. He qualified in fifth place, so he's not too far up from where he started, but he has been featuring up towards the front in recent times in this race, and he seems to be mostly staying out of trouble from what I've watched. He's not really pushing things too hard. If things get hairy, he's not really getting involved from what I can tell. So I'm going to kind of keep my eye on Tim because I think he's going to come into play later in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. If we cast an eye over the championship standings, big loser today at this point in time is the 13 truck of Gary Whitson, championship leader, sitting way back towards the rear of the field in 20th place at the moment. Jordan Harnish has moved his way up. We know that Jordan Harnish is not necessarily a race winner, but always pressing for the win and always up near the front. And Tim Johnston did win the race at Richmond a couple of weeks ago, so he's pushing his credentials forward. He is in fifth place. So a couple of the guys out there, Bryce Whitson is in fourth place. So these guys have an eye on the championship as well. John Peters not showing on the championship, but from the run that he's got here today, we hope that he can carry it through and get up perhaps even on the podium.
Yeah, very much so. But you have to feel for Gary Whitson, obviously, because he was only that 1 point ahead of Jordan Harnish, and looking like he had a good chance to extend that. But I guess now it's back into Jordan Harnish's hands to try and see what he can do now that his main competitor has been ill-capacitated.
Yeah, and bear in mind the points allocated are pretty much the same as in real life. So it's only 1 point difference between positions, but do have a bonus point scheme and so on. As we see the pace car ducking off, and Bryce Whitson wastes no time in getting started. The green flag flies and he's away flying. Jordan Harnish follows him, and Jordan Harnish now in second place. Tim Johnson goes down to the low line into third place. Good move there, Tim. John Peters on the high line trying to make, and he flies past Jordan Harnish there, Joe.
Yeah, Jordan Harness just barely held onto it coming out of two. His truck started to get loose, and everybody had their heads up, thankfully, and he was split by both Nick Cohan and Aaron Kleinhaus down the backstretch. Whoa, and we've got another bobble there from John Peters, who's trying to work his way past Tim Johnson for that third position.
Well, it looks like he might get it done there, Joe. On the low line, the preferred line, up high, we've got Tim Johnson. Tim Johnson hanging in there. Meanwhile, Bryce Whitson is getting a break on these guys as they are battling. And somebody is in the wall. We're getting information. There will be another caution.
Sounds like Dan Winter, and it looks like he elected someone else as well. That was William Wolf, unfortunately.
Wow. Yes, he's on low, and comes back on the track, and the guy behind him, which is William Wolf, as you mentioned, hits him full on. It might be that these guys' day is over in as far as the race is concerned.
Yeah, I don't think. It looks like from what I can see of my replay, Dan Winter just kind of lost it weirdly on the very low side, and it's a bit of a bizarre slow accident with that run-in with William Wolf. I'm not sure if William was trying to slow down or what, but he certainly had enough space to try and watch out.
Yes, and still we can't get many green flag laps in place. I'm pretty sure a lot of the drivers must be pretty frustrated. But you know, Joe, what happens under these conditions is that the words that you mentioned earlier, that cautions breed cautions, is so true. because the frustration level actually builds as you have each caution coming out. And what happens then is that people try harder or they don't try hard enough, and you just get another caution. And this is what we are seeing here today.
Well, in the meantime, looks like Bryce Whitson Jr. and a few others from the lead have come
Everyone.
on in. Yeah, quite a few. Uh,
Oh,
but another thing to keep in mind is these races are limited to an hour and 15 minutes. We got less than 25 minutes left to go. So I'm wondering if these guys are even going to make it the full distance.
well, there was one race that we were pretty much on the time limiter. They finished the race with seconds left on the timer. So this one is looking decidedly iffy as to whether they will actually finish. We are on lap 47, so 30, about 28 laps or thereabouts, 40, 60, yeah, about 28 laps to go. So a long number of laps. One of the good things, though, is that they will now have enough fuel to finish this race. 28 laps should be well within the pit window. So now's the time. Come in, take fresh new tires, and get out there and finish the race if we don't have another caution.
Now here's an interesting move. Ricky Harden seems to be the only one that did not take tires. He beat everybody else out of the pits of that group that pitted. So this could be a very smart move or a very unwise one, depending on if we actually get some green flag racing go. If he'll have way older tires than everybody else around him.
Yeah, and I tell you, you do not want to have worn tires in any part of the race, but specifically towards the end of the race. So you will see guys with another caution coming out, perhaps a bit later on. You will see them duck into the pits again and grab some tires. Tires are so important on these trucks, and the drivers do know it. But yes, Ricky Harden has made his choice, and he's moved up a number of positions, obviously, as they cross the start-finish line. Let's see where Ricky Harden is. He comes in now in 9th place, so that's a good move for him. He's probably banking, Joe, on the fact that there'll be more cautions and he'll be able to grab some tires later on.
Yeah, I kind of don't blame him on that one with the way things have been going. Track positions, as I mentioned earlier, can count when you've got caution after caution because there's so few opportunities to try and make those positions. So if you can do it without risking trying to get side by side with a truck out on track, sometimes you can jump them in the pits. And, it might seem like the less glamorous way to be moving yourself up the order, but, in this case, whatever works.
Well, and now I want to make mention of the fact the new leader of this race is none other than Michael Koenig. Now, Michael is a driver that I know quite well. I've raced with him on oval races in another league, and he's a pretty handy driver. He's had a horrible season, though, and has not featured anywhere near the front in any race that we have broadcast, and in fact, in a number of races, did not finish at all. But here he finds himself in command of this race at this particular time, lap number 48. So an unusual position for him. I would be very interested to see what he's going to do. As the pace car ducks in, Joe, he basically starts straight away trying to get a break on the field. The green flag now flies. Behind him we have another new name, Jason Kristen, who follows him into second place. Jim Foos once again finds himself up near the top of the field in third place. Jim Foos is one of the drivers who has featured up near the front, Joe. So if you like, he's one of the regular front runners, as the other two in front of him are not. And Ken Hinshaw is in fourth place right now, and very interesting developments. Let's see what happens here.
Look at the pack of cars behind him. I was going to mention David Gibson had an absolutely awful start, and he hasn't been able to get that speed up. As that's what caused that. Hopefully what we saw on screen was just a babble of cars, and it's still going on behind him as we've got John Peters in front of Steve Buala and Ricky Harden trying to get themselves together. We've got a car spinning.
And yes, indeed, more than one. The 22 truck there, I do believe that is the 42 truck. It's 42 truck hitting the wall. Fat and furious, it says. Well, let's face it, I don't know about the fat, but certainly furious.
Yeah, and we had no caution for that as well. Aaron Kleinhaus was also one of the ones that spun on that one. So we're managing to stay green at least, as Jason Christensen has taken the lead away from Michael Koenig.
Well, I want to say before we go back up to the front that I'm way at the back looking from Alan Young's truck, and in front of him, if you look to out of his windscreen, you will see a whole bunch of trucks. A very good view, and they too wide in some cases, even three wide. Can this last, John?
I'm not sure. We've seen it obviously go wrong plenty of times already with all the cautions. Guys are at least starting to get things moving, it looks like. I don't want to put the commentator's curse, but we're starting to get a few laps in. Tires are getting warmed up. Maybe guys are getting a little bit more confident, and we're seeing less squirrely moments. So, as things are going out, I'm seeing Mick Cohan and Jordan Hardish well back in the field, still sitting in 13th and 15th. These guys have a long way to try and make up those positions that they lost from pitting a little bit earlier.
Well, Joe, here's a news flash for you guys. Gary Whitson now in sixth place, race championship leader, I should say. We all but discounted him as a factor in this race. Just goes to show you can never count anyone out in truck racing, and that's really what I do like about this series and other oval series. Now at this point in time, our leader is Jason Kristen, ready to rescue, it says on the back of the O2 truck. John Peters has managed to get by Michael Koenig as well. Michael Koenig on the outside now, battling away, but he is losing position lap after lap there, Joe, as the faster guys are coming to get him.
Yeah, and look at Jim Foose just making mincemeat of him coming into turn 3. And Gary Whitson is going to follow him through. In fact, Gary is getting greedier than that. He's going to look to the inside of Jim Foose as he gets a decent exit, but not a good enough one coming down the tri-oval.
And behind Michael Koenig, Tim Johnston. Now, Tim Johnston looking pretty racy there. Flies by Michael Koenig and starts to look at the truck in front of him, which is none other than Gary Whitson, who's following Jim Foose. So now we find the fast guys, and we're getting some information which I did not hear. I will continue on. Did you hear that?
Yeah, there was a leader change. John Peters has moved himself past John Kristen, and now he's going to lead a lap as he comes across the line. In fact, Kristen's going to go one more spot down as Bryce Whitson Jr. is going to slot himself into second.
Yeah, good running from these guys, but that's what you expect of the guys who week after week are up near the front of the races. Now, the Tim Johnson is the one to watch right now behind Jim Foose. He is up to 5th place at this point in time. Doesn't get a move done on Jim Foose at that point in time, but I would not be surprised, Joe, to see him attempting to overtake Jim Foose. He certainly got the speed by the looks of it. His truck is on the outside at this point in time. Jim Foose cleverly holding hard onto that inside line. Now Tim Johnson tries to get on the inside. Looks like he might get it done this time. He's on the inside of the number 2 truck, the 38 truck, but Jim Foose fights him off. But now he gets on the inside, Joe, and will he get it done? Let's see.
It looks like he's got just a bit of a nose ahead, but Foose has the better momentum coming around the outside, I think, only just barely, as now he gets side by side up into turn 1, and I think he's going to have to lose out this time by. He's still not giving up, though. Almost touches through there. Oh, and there's just a bit of a tip. Foose is around.
Oh! And Foose came around, and Tim Johnson, in fact, touched him. We have another caution, and I tell you, that was some really good, fierce racing. I was about to go to the front where the racing was just as fierce for the first position with Bryce Whitson challenging John Peters for the number 1 spot, but not to be. We do have another caution, and I think at this point in time we will take a short break, catch our breath, and come back for the final laps, hopefully. Welcome back, folks, to the American Sim Racing Truck Series, where we have seen. Look, we've said it before, Joe. It's been pretty chaotic, but we've still had some very good racing when we did have racing. So, let's hope now we are on lap 62. Let's hope that in the last 13 laps that we have left in this race, we will see some green flag racing. I will tell you as well that the clock is on 1 hour and 8 minutes. So 7 minutes on the clock at this point in time. And what did we say? Something like 13 laps, 32 seconds around here. They should still be able to get it done, Joe.
That's if they can stay green. If we get another caution, I'm pretty sure we're going to be finishing by the clock. It's like we're getting, a grocery store demo size racing here. We just get it in little itty bitty bites and can never get the full thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, as we mentioned, the lights are out on the pace car. L. Bryce Whitson Jr. in control of the race at this point in time. Jason Kristen, on his outside. Kent Hinshaw and John Peters on the inside. The pace car is off. The truck of Bryce Whitson takes off. Green flag flies. Jason Kristen caught napping there as John Peters on the outside and Ken Hinshaw on the inside attacking him, but he goes down low. No, the 83 truck challenges on the inside, but then gives up. And now John Peters is the one. He'll go inside momentarily and try to take the second position, which he does as I speak, Joe.
Yeah, and whoa, look at Kristen drift way up wide, had no grip coming through there as he tries to avoid Peters. And now we've almost got a three-wide situation with Whitson trying to go through the middle of these guys and down low. And looks like, who is that? I was trying to see on the far side of this three-wide situation. Still going three-wide through 1 and 2, and they're holding on to it.
Wow, and I tell you what, there was a touch there. Harry Whitson and we've got a yellow flag once again. That is probably caused by those guys battling that hard up front there.
No, nobody spun up there. I'm trying to see who it was, actually.
Oh, I'm seeing Jim Foose with a badly damaged truck, but I'm not sure if he was involved.
Well, it looks like it was Kent Hinshaw that kicked it off. He got loose coming through 1 and 2. Then I'm trying to watch the replay here. Oh, he actually got loose, caught it, and then went to the apron and came back up, and that unsettled his car. And he was spun around backwards, and nobody touched him miraculously.
Yep, we've got it on the replay now. There he goes around. Unbelievable. They all managed to miss him. You see them all taking evasive action. He's got the truck stopped, and then he gets going again. So good driving from him, but better driving from the other guys around him who did not hit him. And Joe, you said it just before the restart. This may well be all she wrote.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing about 7 minutes left on my clock right now, so I'm not sure if we're going to be finishing under caution here or what, but I'm pretty sure we should be able to make it to the end. And some guys faking like they're going to go into the pits. Bryce was, John Peters was faking it. Gary Whitson wasn't falling for it, though, as I don't see anybody going in quite yet.
Yeah, 3 of them have gone in. Ken Hinshaw is in. It looks like in front of him, Tim Johnston's in, and also not Steve Bohala, Skip Witt in. So at least 3 have gone into the pits, which strange move this close to the end of the race. It must be that their trucks are not handling as well as they would like, and they thought they might as well go in.
Yeah, at this point, I would think it really wouldn't make sense, because even if we get green flag racing to the end, it's the green falls. I think we're only about 10 to 12 laps that we'll be able to get in. So these guys are being at a big disadvantage with very few other guys going in, because that's a lot of track position to make up.
Yeah, let's do math. So we are on lap 66 right now out of 75. So that would be 9. Take away 2 caution laps still to go, at least. So that would be 7 laps. We would have a shootout of about 7 laps. However, the clock may beat us to it. The elapsed time from iRacing is showing at 1 minute 13. So 2 minutes plus a bit of extra time for the original pace lap. We are looking at not more than about 4 minutes racing left.
And I apologize. I was actually trying to listen to a bit of the chatter because there's a lot of chatter going on over the radio. So guys are discussing something relatively heatedly, it seems like.
Yeah, I don't have the chat on, so I cannot hear what the guys are saying, but no doubt they'd be very unhappy with the way things have gone in this race. And it's that's a little sad to see because we have seen, I say it again, we've seen some great racing in this series where guys have run really close together and have done a marvelous job of green flag racing, but this has not been one of the better races, Joe.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, especially at a track like this, which really should offer some good chances. And we have seen it. We have to give them credit. When it has been green, it's been some really good door-to-door racing between these guys. But it sounds like the debate is mostly about whether or not they're going to have a green-white checkered, which I believe the answer is no, because I don't believe iRacing has that, unless they actually do get it like to time right. But we'll see. Pace lights are still on, so we've at least got at least another lap and a half before we can go back to racing here.
Well, that's right, and it might be appropriate to just call the order that we have right now, because this may well be the finishing order. At the moment, Bryce Whitson is actually leading this race. If he wins here today, I think that might well be his first win. I can't be sure on that one. John Peters was the pick of the guys today. I thought that he ran a great race here today, John Peters. Gary Whitson has recovered from a situation where he was pretty much at the back of the field, Joe, early on, and he finds himself in the third position, so he is going to hang on to the #1 championship spot. Jason Kristen is in fourth place right now. The unfortunate people are, I'm looking for where Jordan Harnish is, because he's certainly his chances are going to be hurt in the championship stakes.
Yeah, he's sitting in seventh right now, so he's got a ways to go. And at 3 minutes left, I don't think he's going to have enough time for him to make it up to the top, unless we have a huge wreck, which we really don't wish on these guys. But you're right that Bryce Whitson Jr. has not won a race in this series yet, so this will be his an inaugural win if he can take it to John Peters there.
Well, Joe, the lights off on the pace car. We may well get a lap or two in before the clock beats us. This is going to be absolutely frantic, and I'm going to bet you any money it'll end on caution anyway, because they can't be doing, if we're following the clock, more than 1 or 2 laps. So, the lights are out on the pace car. The leader at the moment is showing on my screen as being John Peters, but that's not right. Certainly, it should be Bryce Whitson Jr. leading this race into the final moments. So the pace lights are off. We are coming up to turn number 4. The pace car will duck off. Why don't you call the start this time, Joe?
All right. Yeah, I think John Peters just edged Bryce to the line last time by. This time he can't do that or else he'll get black flagged. So he's got to wait as the pace car gets ready to duck off, waiting for the very last moment. Now it goes on in. Bryce Whitson Jr. does not waste any time. He accelerates right away. John Peters does get caught napping, and in fact, Gary Whitson is already on the inside of him, and it looks like he's going to have a clean shot up to turn 1 as Bryce Whitson Jr. is taking advantage of the clean air that he's got all the way in front of him.
Well, that was a fantastic restart by both Whitson cousins. John Peters not giving up, though. He's going on the inside now of Gary Whitson, and he might get it done, the 151 truck on the inside. However, Gary Whitson fights back in the 13 truck, stays on the outside, but can't keep it in a line there to hold on to the second position, Joe. So he loses that now to John Peters, who I said early on ran a fantastic race. We are green flag racing. We are on lap 2 of the restart.
Yeah, and it looks like we're going to have 2 more laps to go. So come on, guys. If we can just keep it clean for those 2 laps, we can have a shootout to the finish. John Peters has managed to get himself into that second position, and it looks like Gary Whitsitt is going to want that back. But right now, this is exactly what Bryce wants for these two guys to be duking it out. Well, he just has clean air, and we had a car into the wall, and that was Nick Cohen. He's able to continue on, but his speed is greatly reduced as Ricky Harden relieves him of that 4th position.
Correct, and just behind them, Jordan Harnish, who started off in about 7th place on the restart, is now up to 6th place. He's got his eye on Nick Cohen, who's struggling with his truck at the moment. He's still... What am I hearing?
I think we might be on the white flag as well, as Bryce Whitson Jr. comes to the line, Richard.
And the checkered flag is out, I believe, for Bryce Whitson Jr. Is that right, Joe?
I can't actually tell myself. My stats are not telling me that it's out. He's continuing on around.
Well, we are seeing the checkered flag flying in iRacing. So, in our broadcast software. Whether that is right or not, I believe now it has flown because everyone's slowing down, Joe.
Yes, it looks like it did fly that time. So, nice win for Bryce Whitson Jr. after a caution-filled race, Richard.
Yeah, not the best of races that we have seen in the series, certainly. But, the guys will learn from this, hopefully, and they'll come out in the next race and perhaps do it better. We'll talk a little bit more about that as guys finish off. But right now, we're going to go to a break, and we'll come back and give you the unofficial standings from iRacing. And then hopefully we can have some driver interviews. It's going to be very interesting to hear what some of the drivers say there. But we'll be back after this break. Don't go away. Welcome back, folks, to the American Sim Racing Series, where we have seen a race categorized by one of the drivers as freaking pathetic. So, Joe, why don't we real quick go through the standings and then get to some driver interviews?
Absolutely. L. Bryce Whitson Jr. again won this round, his first win of the series. John Peters came in second. Gary B. Whitson, our championship leader, is in third. Ricky Harden, finished in fourth. Nick Cohan took fifth. Jordan M. Harnish finished in sixth. Jason Kristen took home seventh. Then it's Michael Kunick in eighth. Ninth was Ty Hester. And then Alan Young rounded out the top 10.
And in 11th place was taken out by Skip Witt. David W. Gibson in 12th. Jim Foos running well towards the late stages. They finished in 13th. Alex Bates in 14th. Kent Hinshaw, who was up near the front at times, finished in 15th. Tim Johnston, an unfortunate race for him, finished 16th. Ernest Smith Jr. in 17th. Aaron Kleinhans in 18th. Steve Wahala 19th. And looks like the rest of them did not finish. Dan Winter, William Wolf, Keith Medeiros, promising early on, and Derek Cash, both fast guys, did not finish. And those were the two last places. Now we are going to talk first of all to Gary Whitson, but I'm getting a poke here, Joe, that he's sick and going to bed.
Oh, well, we won't keep you too long then, Gary. It looked like you had quite a run from the back as you had some trouble at one point.
Yeah, I'm here. Go ahead and repeat that. I was channel jumping there for some reason.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it looked like you had a bit of a run from the back there at about mid-race as you ran into some trouble with all the cautions. Was it tough to make the positions back up, or was it pretty easy going?
No, it wasn't too bad. I got myself back there, just spun the tires on the restart and got up in the wall. Actually got kind of lucky because we had a pretty quick caution and about 10 or 15 guys pitted in front of me, gave me all my track position back. But truck just wasn't the same, so happy to come home third. It's good to see Bryce win. So all in all, not a bad race for our hometown track.
Absolutely. We understand. We just heard that you might be a bit sick tonight. Was it tough to get it all the way up to third with feeling a little under the weather?
It wasn't too bad. You know how it is when you're out there racing. You don't think about it too much, but every time under caution, I realize my head hurt and I'm sore. So I think I'm going to hit the hay.
All right. I guess that was the worst race possible to have that then. Go get some rest and congratulations on third. Richard?
Thank you, Joe. Well, we're going to now to Bryce Whitson, the winner of the race. Bryce, your feelings about this race? From where we were sitting, it was something of an unfortunate race.
I would definitely agree on that. It was this one was definitely one of our worst races, and not very proud of it, to be honest.
Yeah, look, it certainly was a caution fest. We were struggling at times, I must say, to find things to talk about because there were so many cautions happening. But still, you managed to bring it home, and this is your first win, I believe.
Yeah, this season it's the win I've got. It's been a rough season. A lot of them that I've given away by accident, and feels good to finally finish one out, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, we congratulate you on a win. When when the racing is disjointed or halted by cautions all the time, it's difficult to keep concentration. Did you find that?
Yeah, it's definitely difficult to keep concentration. I was very hesitant to pit, and I waited until the last minute to do so, and hoping that everything would work out, and it did in the end. So I can be happy about that.
Yeah, and also John Peters was fast today.
Yeah, John was definitely fast. I think he had a case of burning it up just a little bit, but overall he was a very quick truck and probably one of my hardest competitors.
Yeah. All right. Well, we won't keep you. It's a long race for you guys. So congratulations on that first place, and we'll see you next week, Bryce.
Thank you much, Richard, and hope you next week we'll have something better for you.
Not to worry. We're going to grab a Jordan Harnish and have a quick word with Jordan. Jordan, like we were saying to the other drivers, this was a stop-start race. Very difficult to keep your concentration under these conditions.
Yeah, it was kind of ridiculous in some of the wrecks, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, I have to say that it wasn't deep. Some cases we barely got a lap in before we had another caution. But the thing for you, I guess, Jordan, is the fact that you brought it home in, where are we, in 6th place. At one stage, it was looking pretty bad, and it didn't even look like you might get 6th place because you were somewhere near the back. So you should be at least happy that your championship hopes are alive.
Yeah, I wasn't even supposed to be here tonight. Opening night for our Wednesday program at my local track started at night. It said it rained out, so I was able to come in. Had to start at the rear from a penalty from Richmond, and just didn't go right from there. Got in an incident on lap 2, I think. Stuffed it in the fence, just trying too hard, and I had to go in and pit that and fix that damage, and then got going again. And wound up getting involved in another wreck and just couldn't repair it from there.
Yeah, now, as we said, it really wasn't pretty. But having said that, you did have a good finish and your championship hopes are alive. I think you probably hang on to 2nd place. Not quite sure. Bryce Whitson might do a little better. But congratulations, and I guess we'll see you next week, Jordan.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, we got racing again next week on Wednesday, but I'm hoping it rains out again so I can come back.
All right, my friend. Thank you for talking to us. And I think, Director, that just about wraps it up for us. And we'll go now to the credits. And as usual, we do need to thank a whole bunch of people and organizations for making our broadcast possible. Firstly, we thank Jim Foos and Mark Myers, the organizers of this league. A great league you guys have here. This was not the greatest race, we know, but I'm pretty sure it'll get better as we go forward. Also, we would like to thank the makers of various software and hardware that help make this stream possible: iRacing.com, XSplit Audio Technica, Ava Media, and Behringer. Thanks also to the team today, Kevin as the director, and Joe for standing in for Sam, who is a bit ill tonight. If you want to find out a little more about GSRC, you will find us at our website, globalsimracingchannel.com. Along with archived races, you will find race highlights there. We have a whole stack of content for you to view. We are also on Twitter at GSR Channel and on Facebook at facebook.com/Global Sim Racing Channel. Very big thanks to Doug Beard, who creates our camera sets, and these are some of the sets that you saw during this particular stream. Very special thank you also to Eric Ekholm, who provides us with much of our music. Look for him not only here on GSRC, but also in TV commercials, movie trailers, iTunes, and Spotify. If you do like the music, tell Eric where you heard it. His handle is at Eric Ekholm. Well, folks, the next race in this particular series will be on the July the 2nd, next Wednesday, and it will be at Rockingham. So look for that one next week. On this coming weekend, we have 2 broadcasts, one on Friday night, which will be the iSuper Speedway Series at Daytona Oval, and on Sunday, the June the 29th, we have the Virtual Sim Racing Association race at Interlagos. Also, other series coming up is the Enduro Pro Series that will be on July the 5th at Road Atlanta. That'll be the last of that series. And then on Saturday, July 12th, we have the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series at Watkins Glen Boot Configuration. We will also have on Wednesday the 16th of July a new series which we are broadcasting from Champion Motorsports, and they will be racing GT cars at Zolder. Then on Sunday the 20th of July, we have the Northwest Majors, who will be running their Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis. So that is it from us tonight. Thank you for watching. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on track.